Now I thought I'd tell you a little bit about what we've been doing in Washington, in case you've been off on another planet or out in the outback in Australia or something and you don't know it. We've been spending money like a drunken sailor on Saturday night. That's what we've been doing in Washington, D.C. And I think most of you may have a concept of what's going on as to what started all this, and I do not claim to be the world's greatest living authority on mega banks, but I have done a lot of asking questions, and I want to tell you approximately what is going on if you don't know it, very briefly. During the Carter administration, we decided that we wanted to have a way to try to lift minorities and low-income people to where the American dream could fit everybody. And so we passed an investment in what I think it's called Investment Communities Act or something like that. I don't remember the title of it. It really didn't go anywhere. A few people got help with that until the Clinton administration, who basically went to the financial institutions and said, we want this put together and we want it done. There was a lot of the big lending institutions that had a lot of hesitation about making loans to people who basically under normal rules wouldn't qualify, but they were assured that they would be able to sell these pieces of paper to a quasi-government entities, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. And so the bank wouldn't be holding that paper, and they could make these loans, and that they would make sure that this program worked. And I'm sure those who are in the real estate business will tell you that we sold record amounts of property in the 90s and at the turn of the century and on into the 2004, 5, up until about 2006 level. We were probably selling more houses and real estate in this country than had ever been done by a factor of about 5. And that was across the country. And all these things were being sold in the secondary market, or 90% of them at least were being sold in the secondary market to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, were a government agency that wasn't a government agency. Now that's crazy, but that's what they were. They were a government agency that wasn't a government agency. And people thought that participating with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, and in fact, our bankers will tell you that if you had part of your capitalization in Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac in your local bank, and the bank examiners came in, they wouldn't write you up on Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. If you had treasuries in Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, they'd treat Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac securities just like treasuries. Full faith and credit of the federal government behind those instruments. And that was everybody's presumption, but the reality was they were not government agencies, they were private businesses. They went out and created some new instruments, pieces of paper. Okay, and it's really important that you understand it's a piece of paper. Now, these instruments were secured by putting together a lot of these subprime loans. These loans where you had a lot of people that didn't qualify. Now, let me make this very clear, because there's a feeling out there in the country that everybody that's in those things are not paying their mortgage, and that's not true. That's not true at all. In fact, arguably, in many of these packages that were traded by paper, in other words, you say, here's 1,000 mortgages in this package. Now, we'll sell you, we've got 100 pieces of paper that represents this 1,000 mortgages, and it'd be a lot more paper than that, but they start treating it like stock in this pile of mortgages. That's an easy way to put it. The paper people were buying was an investment in these packages of mortgages, guaranteed because they were under Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac by the government. And they sold these packages all over the world. Not just here, but that's why they got trouble in Europe, they got trouble in Asia with these things. They're everywhere. And everybody presumed they were just like treasury notes. And it created a whole new market of new paper, which people traded just like stocks. Now, that's fine, and that system worked as long as you said, well, yeah, underlying this, there are some people that aren't paying their mortgage, but the value of their house is greater, keeps going up. So we really have the security in this package. And so those things, this piece of paper had real worth because this package had a defined worth. You could define what was in the package. All of a sudden, the market started stopping in places, the real estate market, and then it started going down in places. And then very quickly, because they couldn't define what was in the package, you couldn't sell the paper because it didn't have a market value, because you couldn't tell what the underlying securities were worth because the value of property was going down. You could tell as far as performance, but we have an accounting principle that came out of Sarbanes-Oxley, I think, that said all security that has to be in a financial institution has to be marked with its market value.